Ghana, when we hear the words mental illness, what often comes to mind are fear, stigma, and silence. Many still believe mental illness is a case, a punishment, or even a sign of moral failure. But behind those misconceptions are real people, mothers, fathers, students, and many others who are living with conditions that can be treated and managed just like any other illness. This documentary seeks to change this narrative. It is about rethinking mental illness through the voices of survivors, caregivers, and experts. It is about rethinking mental illness not as shame, but a call for compassion, understanding, and proper care.
Across Ghana, people understand mental health in different ways. These beliefs are shaped by culture, religion, personal experience, and what we have been taught over time. To understand the problem, we must first listen to how people think and talk about mental health.
I'm not mental illness. From my understanding, mental illness is like someone not being able to express their views or overreacting on something. The causes of mental illness, I think abuse of drugs, cases, they are very treatable. The cases side, I think it's spiritual. So we get churches, I guess traditionalists, the herbals, and the drug abuse to hospitals.
One major cause I know is drug abuse, because people take a lot of drugs nowadays that are able to have effect on the brain. Marijuana and all those things, they can have effect on the brain, so it's a major cause. And another major one is the social media, how we use it, because the time you spend with your device has impact on the mind, so it's another cause.
That influences the mental health, and that will bring about the illness. You know, we are Africans, and Africa and Ghana, as we have a perception about certain families and individuals, or certain sicknesses and certain things that happen to people. We attach it to the cause of maybe they have betrayed an ancestor, or a river god or something. Some believe that is bewitchment. The person has been bewitched and is causing the person not to behave well. A curse, if there's a curse and that have been pronounced by someone, it can also. And also, if the family fail to fulfill certain requirements as they have come into agreement with a god, this spirits, the spirits also get annoyed and strike the family with this. So these are some of the things that people believe that no, mental illness is not only about, it's maybe punishment from the ancestors, from the gods, spirits, and other things.
In the Ghanaian context, obviously there are many causes, and then there are many reasons why people have those malfunctions of the brain. The first and famous one, and I think in recent times is the most alarming one, the intake of drugs. Apart from that, some people also have the view that there are sometimes some spiritual issues that are connected to people's abnormal behavior. Like maybe something can happen and then some spirit or some kind of forces will be working against the person, and then through that the person is not able to think accurately, the person is not able to process things normally. So some of them are believed to have some spiritual roots cause, and then until now that everything that happens we have to rush to the hospital. There are certain issues that once they happen we try to seek for spiritual assistance even before. So at first that was one of the ways that many people used to, when the person is sick mentally, so they take the person to any spiritual person that they believe can help.
Or let's say most societies or individually we have our own perception about mental illness. Some societies see it to be in the form of a spiritual attack, or individual may think that when someone is going through mental illness, maybe it's based on spiritual attacks. Maybe sometimes intake, maybe over taking of alcohol or these drugs that are now open to the public domain, such as tramadol, red and dark group medicine, and even this marijuana smoking and all that. So all those things are perceptions that surround mental illness. Spiritual attacks, you can't deny the fact that some mental illness doesn't have some spirituality attached to it. Some is real. But when we come to the recent mental illness that is among the youth, that one is all about over substance intake.
These views may sound familiar. They are ideas many of us have grown up with, but these beliefs do more than shape opinions. They influence how people with mental health conditions are treated, whether they receive support, and whether they feel safe enough to seek help. Beyond the labels and assumptions are people living with mental health conditions every day. Their experiences tell a deeper story of pain, resilience, and hope. To understand mental health fully, we must hear directly from those who live with it.
Yeah, when they first started, they sent me to a village and put a lock in my leg. Yeah, they changed my leg for 4 months. That's Busabise. From there I came here. Sometimes people always think it's spiritual cases or due to drug abuse sometimes. But not all person that is like that. Mental health, not everyone that is like cases or to stigmatizing with mental people. Some they need help, they're not financial help. Just to socialization. They should stop stigmatizing us. They don't know they can one day be like us. As for health, don't know, you can know today, but tomorrow you can know. Yes, you don't know what will come into your life and you will be brought here. So it's not good for always stigmatize and discriminate us. Yeah.
For some people, mental illness begins at the moment everything changes, when stability disappears, when loss becomes overwhelming. For Auntie Ifua, not her real name, it began after she lost everything she had worked for to theft. Her sudden mental condition was deeply misunderstood by many people around her. Instead of support, she faced suspicion, rejection, and abandonment from those closest to her. She now lives with the condition, depends on medication, and continues to navigate the painful consequences of stigma. This is her story.
I'm a cook for a white Korean at Tema. There I live. It's come to a point they said when I was the age of 30 years, they asked me to resign and go and be my own, do my business and get married. So as they rented a house self-contained for me. So I employ workers and I pay them. I mean, as a cook, I can do everything. Caterer, I can do everything, so I don't have a problem with baking. Every evening I do go to church. So I went to church when thief came after me. They came and took all my belongings. Even the mattress I was lying on, they took it. They opened my bag and removed all the clothes that I didn't sew. That is the beginning of my mental problem. So when I came, it seems the world is coming to the end. And my parents realized fast and brought me to Accra Mental. That's all I could see. And I went into a coma again. For 1 week, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't drink. So I lost my job. So I have to get back to the village. So the village, there I faced some trial.
Okay.
My junior brother would beat me. Oh, he would slap me, naked me. Hey, it wasn't easy. My father would never say a word. And I tried to contact my aunt. So I ran away from the village to my auntie's place at Accra, Tema, Committee 18. And my auntie also said I can't stay with her. She can't accommodate me, so she will call my father to come for me. And when I went to the village, I can't stay there also. Everybody rejected me. They avoided me. Since then, they don't allow me to go out. Our house is separated from the town. So I did not associate with the community. I always in the room singing. That's my problem because they rejected me. I don't know whom to turn to. So I always in the room singing, crying. And the treatments was so hard so that I can't stand it. So I told my father that I want to come back to the city. My father said no. It came to a point that when I went back to Tema, the money that they've given me, my father seized that money and gave it to my junior sister to build a house. There was $1 they were preparing to send me to Korea. So they took the dollar and exchanged it and gave it to my junior sister to build a house. They thought the white cursed me because I stole the dollar. They see no reason why I have to get the dollar. Because they thought the dollar was stolen money. So they would not let me use the money. So they thought the salary, the city is mine, but the dollar is not mine. I stole it, but the pastor gave it to me. So they took the dollar and the cities, my mental salary, they took all. And when they don't care for me, they don't think about me, whether I will eat or I will drink or not. I've been taking medicine. If I didn't take the medicine 1 year, I will start seeing vision, hearing voices. So it was the medicine that helped me stand. Every month, I took medications. Nobody knows the end of our life. A downfall of a man is not the end of his life. They shouldn't take us for granted. If someone has a mental patient, a mental condition, they shouldn't think he's out of the world or out of control, but rather they should support that person very well. And they must try as possible as much to help that person so that if after that person recovered, they will see the useful part of that person. So they shouldn't think the person is careless or useless or hopeless and neglect that person.
To understand what mental health care looks like beyond public myths, we turn to those who work closely with people living with mental health conditions. For caregivers and advocates, the reality is often more complex and far more human than dominant narratives suggest. One of these voices is the CEO of Baha's Mental Home, a caregiver and mental health advocate who has dedicated nearly 2 decades to supporting recovery and dignity.
I believe that service to mankind is a service to God, and there are so many ways of worshiping God. Channeling my resources and time to mental healing people is one of the services to Allah. When I was growing, I gave myself a timeline, and I promised my late dad that I would take care of people. But I thought it was going to be an orphanage. Little did I know that it was going to be a mental killing people in Ghana and in the world at large. So I see them to be those people who have been neglected in society. People that don't want to go closer to them. Even their own parents neglected them. I sat down to say, no, if these people are in a certain position, why can't I help them? That motivated me to go into helping the mental health people. So I've seen so many changes. So many. I've worked with them for almost 19 years. So I'm not a new. I know the in and out of how it is, the good and the bad. I've changed so many. I've touched so many life. Some of them have come back to their workplaces, some of them are university graduates, some of them, and I've seen a lot. Even as of now, some of them are teachers. We're able to send them back to classrooms. So changing life is more important than anything on this earth. To let the whole world know that mental illness is not a curse. Mental illness is not a curse. It can be you today and it can be me tomorrow. So please, let's do away with stigmatization. You see them, they are our brothers and sisters. Me, I do eat with them, play with them, dine with them, dance with them. They are more closer to me than any other person.
Personal experiences show us the reality of mental health, but understanding the causes and treatments requires professional insight. Medical and mental health experts help explain what mental health truly is and how it can be managed with the right care and support.
Health has got to do with an individual's total state of well-being. It encompasses their emotional well-being, their physical well-being, their psychological well-being, their social well-being, the extent to which you are able to function well in different aspects of your life. There are different things that can influence a person's mental health. If there's something happening in an aspect of the individual's life, it can affect their well-being. For instance, for some people who have certain physical ailments, it affects their well-being, and it affects their mental health. Say someone who has been diagnosed with a chronic ailment like diabetes or chronic kidney disease, the change in their lifestyle that is expected to happen as a result of the diagnosis is going to change the way they view themselves, and they wouldn't be able to do things they previously liked to do. So that can take a toll on their mental well-being. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, people have different aspects of their lives. So a challenge happening in one aspect of their life can lead to a mental health challenge. But I think I would speak more from the biopsychosocial approach. So we are made up of, we have the biological makeup, we have the psychological makeup, and then we have the social makeup. Any challenge in any of these can lead to mental health challenges. For instance, with the biological makeup, we can speak about people's brain structure. Some people have some deformities in their brain, which predisposes them to mental disorders or mental health conditions. We can speak about genetics. If you have a family history of certain certain mental health conditions, the likelihood that you would have that is high. It is not 100% chance, but it just predisposes you. Then when we speak about the psychological aspects, people experience traumatic stuff in their lives at different stages of their lives. Sometimes there's something we call adverse childhood experiences. If you experience trauma at a very young age, when you are still developing, it has the potential of causing you to experience mental health challenges or mental health disorders in your older years. Older, not in terms of late adulthood, or not in terms of when you are aged, but maybe in your 20s, your 30s, the likelihood that you'd experience such challenges are high. Or even if it didn't happen in your childhood, but as you went through life, you experienced some form of traumatic experience. Could be being in an accident, could be experiencing a fire, could be neglect from people who should have cared for you, could be a friendship or a relationship going very sour in a way that you didn't anticipate, could be sexual abuse. Anything that affects your psychological and emotional well-being can have an impact on your mental health. And then when we talk about the social aspect as well, the environment in which people find themselves in can play a role on their mental health. When the environment is well structured, people tend to be healthier. So you might not have a lot of people experiencing mental health challenges. I'm not talking about structured in terms of physical structures, but in terms of the quality of the social support available, right? So you might have people who grow up in well-to-do homes and it looks like they live in a nice house and everything, but the quality of the social support available to them might be poor, and so they might develop mental health challenges. You might have somebody living in something that looks like a shabby town, but then the quality of social support they have is good, and so they are more resilient when they are dealing with challenges, and so they might not have mental health challenges.
There are a lot of attributing factors or contributing factors to mental illness, not necessarily only taking in substances like weed, tramadol, cocaine, and etc. Stress can be a major contributing factor to mental illness. If you're looking at even to be able to achieve climb your academic ladder from the basics to maybe a diploma level or a first degree or even master's, you have to learn hard to be able to excel. And not everybody is able to cope with the academic stress. Some people too, because they've written exams several times and they've failed, they've not been able to make it up. They feel like they are unworthy of living, and that alone can cause them not to be able to sleep properly, and as a result, stress will be triggered, and then they will have that kind of episode of mental illness. If you even look into our environment, you realize that even in Ghana, the poverty rate is high, and as a result, even if you look at our pregnant women, not all of them are able to even get the right composition of food. That we say like eating a balanced diet. Not everybody is pretty to get that kind of balanced diet, so they give birth to children who may suffer some form of defect or some form of malnourishment, and if that is not properly handled, some form of infection can set in, and the person can develop something like high fever along the way, and probably that can trigger into a mental condition. Looking even into our environment or our settings where females have been abused greatly, even in their marriage homes or through their boyfriends, or vice versa, when women also maltreat their boyfriends or husbands, that makes an individual psychologically imbalanced, or they become not able to focus, and that, if not properly handled, can also cause some form of mental illness. All these things I'm talking about, if you look critically about it, we may have the predisposing factors and the genetic factors, or somebody will say like the environmental factors. So there are things that may necessitate or that may precipitate. So you may say like we have precipitating factors and then the predisposing factors. So if you categorize some of these things, you realize that either an individual may have some form of genetic underlying that in case of any stress, the person may be prone to mental illness. For example, mental illness can be attributed to genetics or hereditary. So an individual may have those kind of form of genes in their system but unaware. So immediately some of this stress coming up, it just kind of predispose the person to mental illness.
Even within mental health care spaces, misconceptions about mental illness are not absent. Psychiatrists, psychologists, and advocates point out that beliefs about spiritual causes, personal weakness, and stigma often come up in their work and can prevent help seeking, interrupt treatment, affect cooperation, and make care more difficult.
Many people having misconceptions about mental health is, for me, it stems from our culture, and when I take at it at our culture, also the African context. I mean, even if you look at it in the normal parlance, you hear things like Bema and Sue. I mean, man don't cry. And I always tell the team, how do we measure what we don't know? Right? When somebody sustains a physical cut, what do you see? Blood is oozing out. They can directly see blood is oozing out. They can measure that. They know that there's that. But then mental health, as we know, is a spectrum, right? And so for the earliest part, if people are not trained to recognize these triggers or risk factors or things of mental health, then we all then seem to downplay it and only recognize the end spectrum, which for most people, when they hear mental health, they think it's madness. And those are the higher ends of the spectrum. But social withdrawal, people losing interest in things they used to find pleasurable, all those things, some forms of insomnia, some things of depression, the early stages, we skip all that. And so for Ghana, when people hear mental health, they quickly think, abodam, madness. And it's sad but very funny when even school teachers sometimes hear mental health and they think it's madness. All right, but we can't fault them. But that the highest misconception is that mental health is for mad people, and people seem to think they are immune to mental health.
One of the most prevalent is the misconception that acknowledging that I have a mental health challenge is a failing on my part. So if I'm having a challenge and I acknowledge that I have a challenge, then it means that I am weak. Because if I was stronger, yes, this thing is happening, but it wouldn't impact me to that extent, which is not accurate. Right? When people have physical illnesses, and I like to juxtapose the two a lot because it helps to highlight the disservice we are doing in the mental health space. When people have physical conditions, for instance, if someone steps on a stone and twists their ankle, we don't tell them to force and walk on it. We show them sympathy and sometimes give them a crutch or give them a wheelchair or assist them to walk by holding their hand. Why then is it that when somebody has a mental health challenge and the person says that I have a mental health challenge, we tell the person, ignore your pain and try to get back on track? Another misconception would be the origin of mental health conditions. There are some people who feel it is purely spiritual and so nothing medically or psychologically can be done to treat it. Again, this is not entirely accurate. For the Ghanaian society, which is largely religious, I mean, not everybody is Christian, but most people believe in something. You would not prayer in and of itself, we wouldn't say that don't pray or don't go to whatever you believe in, but you don't need to do that alone, right? If you are sick and you go to the hospital, you are praying alongside that God will give the doctor, or whoever, whatever you believe in, will give the doctor wisdom to know how to treat you. You might decide to augment whatever therapies you're receiving in the hospital with your own herbal concoctions. Why is it that when it comes to mental health, we say that it is purely spiritual and nothing can be done about it?
Misconception about psychiatric illness. Most people don't believe that mental illness can be cured by any form of medication. They attribute it to spiritual connotations, but we will advocate that yes, there may be some form of spiritual backings, but it doesn't mean that you don't need medications. Basically, mental illness is not just attributed to substance, though currently you see that young guys are actually abusing substances, even with women or young ladies also abusing substances, which is predominantly happening in our sector currently, but there are other factors that can also cause mental illness.
The experts stress that recovery from mental illness is possible and achievable with the right care and support. They highlight the importance of consistent treatment, compassionate care, and the active involvement of families and communities in fostering recovery. They also confront and deconstruct common misconceptions about mental illness, calling for greater awareness, understanding, and collective action in creating an environment where people can access help and reclaim their lives.
We as medical personnel, we also know that this has something to do with the brain cells and the brain mechanisms that comes to play. And in case there's that kind of imbalance in those kind of hormones, something may occur. So we will advocate that they come for medical treatment early at the facility while they are being spoken to, and then given some form of wave line or any form of green line as the way to go forward. And if they will need some form of medications or treatment, that is given, and an individual becomes very well when they comply with this form of modalities or treatment. Some people antagonize people suffering from mental illness, even to the point that they want to cast them out of their society, that they are a form of evil, there's some form of evil spirit that have possessed them, so they may not be able to stay with them, so they become an outcast into the society. I don't think that's the best way to go. Looking at the parameters, anybody at all can suffer mental illness because there's a thin line between normality and abnormal behaviors, and every individual going through this form of stress, like I said, can also be prone to mental illness. So it is not only people who have not been to school who suffer mental illness. Doctors, nurses, lawyers, everybody may suffer mental illness. We need to intensify our advocacy to people who have not really heard about mental illness and probably the treatment modalities, and they should stop also attributing mental illness more of like spirituality, where they have to go and change the person in some form of spiritual home, and probably they try to lynch them or probably cane them to perceive that the more they are caning them, then the spirit vanishes. Those are more of like abusing the person's right, and human right abuse is not something that is encouraged at all. I will also advocate that since some of these things are there, we will recommend that at least government can step in, and probably if there's a home that he can build for some of these people, vulnerable people, or probably people suffering from this mental illness, that would be very encouraging, so that at least they will not see people on the street just moving homeless, and probably with even the females, some of them get pregnant whilst they are just roaming about. They don't even know where they are left on their right. Still, people still advance on them. They end up giving birth and they don't even know the parents of those children. So when homes are provided for these people, at least that would be something that I'll be proud of, that yes, some of these people are well catered of and they are not neglected in the society.
I think that one of the key things would be the kind of language that we use when we are talking about mental health conditions, especially in our local languages. Yes, I understand that conversations around mental health originated from English language, at least in the Ghanaian setting. The history of psychology and mental health is not English, but then in the Ghanaian context, it's entered Ghana in English, and we may not have equivalent words in our local languages. So sometimes the words that are used in our local languages are a bit derogatory, and so people don't want to be associated with that, for which reason they are hesitant to acknowledge that they have that challenge going. If we educate people to let them know that everybody experiences mental health challenges, and the fact that you are having a mental health challenge doesn't mean that it is a moral feeling on your part, or doesn't mean that you are weak, but that you are a human going through life. And just like when you have a challenge, you go to the hospital. If you have a mental health challenge, seek not just help, but seek professional help. Just as you don't ignore your physical health, if you're having mental health challenges, don't ignore it. It's not a sign of weakness, it's not a sign of failure on your part. The best you can do for yourself is to learn how to cope with the challenges that life will throw at you.
Practical response to mental health needs. For us, I say it in Ghana and in the larger context, Africa, the key thing is education, 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 and sensitization. I am a huge proponent for school-based mental health and how we can integrate mental health seamlessly into primary health care, right? Rather than wait for a curative approach to mental health, I think advocacy can come in with a proactive approach to mental health, where we're able to advocate for preventive approaches to mental health. And truth is that we only have 3 referral facilities, psychiatrist hospitals: Pantine, Accra Psychiatric Hospital, and Ankafo. Right? Our workmanship or our labor force is not enough to even deal with it. And per the estimates in mental health, studies put it at about 10% of the population, which could translate to 3.1 million Ghanaians, could be at risk of mental health. Right? Truth is that if it blows out, we all cannot contain that. And so we need to advocate, we need to nip the problems at the bad stage, and we need to be focused on proactive approaches to mental health. I believe in technology as that enabling force to create that good. And so we are proponents of it, and we think that we want to usher Ghanaians into the next realm of digital mental health. To anybody out there, seeking help is a sign of strength, right? And it's okay not to be okay all the time. Mental health is a spectrum, right? Not just the person on the road, not just the person on the streets who is almost all naked. We all go through it every day. For anybody going through it, I want to say help is available. I want to say you are not alone in this. And I want to say that we at Zomojo are trying to bridge that gap. And for everybody, let's all support. One organization cannot do it alone. We need a healthier Ghana. We need a healthier, happier Africa. And let's all rally together towards this cause.
What we've seen through these stories is that recovery is possible and hope is real. Mental illness does not define a person. What defines us is how we choose to respond. As a society, let's learn to speak kindly, listen without judgment, and support people struggling with mental conditions. Together, let us create a society where stigma is replaced with empathy, and every person is free to heal, to live, and to thrive. Let us see mental health for what it truly is, a part of our overall well-being, not a source of shame. The change starts now, with you and me.